This is also with a new process video. Today I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do a larger project in one process video, so that's why this video is a little bit longer than usual. And that is because I'm going to make 3 layouts, 3 12 by 12 layouts and one 6 by 12 pocketed insert. So 2 pages, 6 by 12 as well. And the occasion that I'm going to save today is when we went to the Moose Park last summer. And the Moose Park is situated an hour's drive from where my mom lives, and I'd never been there before, and I had heard people going there, but nothing special. I must say I had no expectations at all when we went there. I felt like I'd seen my fair share of moose in my life. They are wild and common around where mom lives, and my relationships with moose were more like they are large, they are gray-brown, and they are shaggy. How much fun can that be, visiting these ones? But this visit at the Moose Park, it turned out to be totally amazing. When we got there and had paid for our tickets, we climbed onto these carriages that were drawn by a tractor, and then we set off into the moose enclosure. And we were free to pet, to cuddle, to feed these wonderful animals from the safety of these carriages. And I think that the safety was more for the moose and not for the people, really, because these were the most gentle animals I've ever met. They were so affectionate and they were so sweet and careful. We fed them these branches that they gave us, and I had imagined them being more like horses, with lots of teeth. and when you feed a horse, you can feel the teeth. But these, they were so gentle, and you never felt any teeth, even when we were feeding them pieces of apple. They were so gentle, and they were so kind, and they were very curious, and they loved the stuff that we were bringing them, these food items that the caregivers handed us. And it was just the most wonderful animal experience I think I've ever had. And I took hundreds of photos. You can imagine my telephone was going warm, and I took photos of the kids feeding the animals, and I took close-up shots of the animals, and then I also happened to capture a little moose calf feeding from his mother, and that was just the sweetest. He was only 2 months old, and he was so soft, and this was just such a wonderful experience, and just the fact that I had no expectations whatsoever on this meeting, I think it became even better, because I was totally overwhelmed with these beautiful animals. And I remember, many of them, the male moose, they have antlers. Do you call them that? Oh, I don't know. Moose antlers. Yeah, it sounds good. And they were warm to the touch, and that also kind of hit me with this. Oh, they were so soft, and they were warm, and they were so sweet. It was a total, just perfect experience, and the kids loved them. Scrapbooking, yeah. we're doing the scrapbooking video. I have taken 6 photos. They are portrait shape, and I placed them in 2 rows and made a 6x6 page of them by placing slivers of papers in the middle and on the top and bottom. So that's just a really easy photo layout, and that will also get a title in a little while. At the moment, I'm working on one of the 6x12 pages, and this is the page that is showing the carriage and the carriages, because there were several on a row, and it also shows one of the moose running beside the carriages. I thought that was a fun one. And I'm building it on brown cardstock, and I'm going to fill in those little gaps between the photos with a wood grain paper that has a leaf pattern on it. We were feeding the moose leaves, and I felt that pattern kind of made that those leaves come into the picture as well. In my journaling, I will try and just write something about those leaves, so that it will be saved for the future. Perhaps I will write a journaling on the backside or whatever. I don't know really. I'm going to save that little space at the top there for a title or a word or something. On the right there, you see that I have prepared tan cardstock and paper strips of apples, and the coordinating backside paper on that color on that paper, it's just a green sliver, and that's because we got to feed the moose apple pieces and pieces of raw potato. And I felt that those apples could spice things up a bit, because it's a lot of brown here, and it felt like I wanted to use the green because it resembled the color of the grass, and then I felt like the apples was a good accent or a good like symbol for the pages. So that was my goal. I struggled a bit with that because that particularly didn't fit with the brown theme. I had nothing else of color on the page, but eventually it will all stay together as a whole project. Right now I'm working on the second 12x6 page, and that is a photo. You can see my mom there looking out through the back window of our carriage at a little moose calf, and then there are 2 photos of the same calf. He is feeding from his mother, and then it's just a photo of him walking on the grass. And I'm going to do the same treatment with the leaf wood grain in the gaps that I have left on the page. To make that little sliver of background cardstock full 6x12, I'm using a border strip from the same wood grain paper, and they are just stars, so it's a really generic symbol, but I liked it. I liked that it made this page a little bit different. I'm also chalking the edges of the pattern papers that I'm putting there, and that turned out really well, even though I had a really juicy felt applicator at the moment, so it's a lot of liquid chalk going on there. Yeah, now it's time to start working on these 2 main pages of the kids. And I have one photo block that I already taped together. I like to put photos like that because you get to you get the 4 photos together pretty well when you have one landscape, one portrait, and then you change that up on the lower row, and you only will be left with a little bit of a square in the middle, which you can use for embellishing, which I will do. The other 4 photos, I cropped them so that they became a little bit more narrow, and then I'm going to fuss around a bit with how to place them towards each other. That was the main problem. I felt that I had several options. I could place them just above each other in the middle of the page, resembling the right page with a large square. But then again, I wanted them to be a little bit different, so I will go with placing them a little bit off each other so that it will stretch over the entire 12-inch page. That little gap there that is formed from the leftover in the photos, I will fill that with the same green color as I have in the little border there with the apples. You see that I have changed the color of the cardstock for the background, and I felt much more happy with this darker color than I did with the tan. And I think it has something to do with the fact that the darker brown more resembles the mousse that is in the photo, and it's also a warmer color that felt good to use with these sweet photos. In the left series, my kids are cuddling with the calf, and I cut away, I think, most of my son's head in all 4 photos, because even though he has a really cute ear, I felt like the whole photo block became an expose of his ears, and that was not what I intended. So I cut away to make room for the little sweet animal. I still have a couple of pieces left of the wood grain paper with the leaves, and then I'm going to use that to fill in some of the gaps on these pages as well, just like I did on the 6x12. And this is also the paper that I used for the title page with the 6 photos of the mousse. So these will go here in these 2 gaps that I have, and then I'm going to place a row of the paper to the right on the right layout. We did this outing last summer, so it's almost a whole year since I took these photos, and that surprised me first. That why haven't I done this? They are wonderful. It's such a beautiful memory, and the photos are perfect. I didn't realize why I didn't put them in my album or scrapbook them, just for the joy of scrapbooking. But then I realized when I sat down this time that it's really hard to make a project where you want to capture the whole event, and just by taking one photo out of these, it would have felt like I was missing out on something. So that's why I decided to do it like this in one sitting, instead of making a mousse layout and then go to a boating layout and then go to a zoo layout. I'm making the whole visit and in one sitting, and that made this more safe for me, because when I have all the photos on the desk at the same time, I know which I have, I know how I can divide them, I know how I can plan the whole project, and it's always nice to have a theme running through project like this, for example, with the same kind of pattern papers. So that made it safe for me to feel that I'm going to capture this in a good way. And when I had done this project and I looked at it, I felt like, yeah, this is a really good method of capturing an event. And you know by now that for me the photos is a very important part of the scrapbooking. I wouldn't do scrapbooking if I didn't have the photos. I would perhaps do art journaling, but the photos are very dear to me, and they are the reason why I spend so much time on this hobby. I love my photos. I love the way that I can capture my life on photos, because I've told you before, I've always so stressed out about things, and I'm so nervous, and I'm planning and my head it's literally just on fire all the time. So when I get home in my comfort of my home, and I can sit down and relive these memories in the safety of my home, that's so much worth for me. And therefore I felt like I want to make these photos justice, and I was so pleased when I saw what I had done with these photos that I decided right away that I'm going to do this method more. So just in a couple of videos I'm going to show you a similar kind of project from another outing last summer. So this is totally a method that I will come back to when I have larger photo events that I want to make justice and where I need to feel that I'm getting everything across in my album. I'm taking those apple pieces that I had left of that paper, and I'm cutting out a couple of apples, both the red ones and those that are cut in half so that you can see the seeds, and then I'm placing them here and there on the wood grain, and I felt that tied everything together really well with the strip at the bottom of the page. Here I'm going to spell out the name of the place where we went, and I'm using a thickest font. It's a foam font in off-white or vanilla white, and I really felt that it went well with the wood grain, and it also it was visible enough on this small pattern paper. So that is Virum is the place, Älgpark means moose park, and then's the last year's date. Then I'm going to spell out moose safari on top of that right 6x12, and then on the other two layouts I'm going to just spell words that came to me when I looked at the photos. So it will be something with cuddling and something with just words of feelings. I had some problems with running out on some of the letters, so that's why I'm fussing about and changing things up. But eventually it will be really good. When this process video is being published, I am probably sitting and sorting photos again, because when this is airing, we'll come back home from a couple of days visit at Legoland in Denmark. And I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm going to take so much photos. I will probably create an album out of that trip. Hopefully we'll have good weather. Everything is depending on the weather, I think, right now. And I will be making Lego layouts in the future. So that's probably the first time I'm going theme park scrapbooking for real. I've done some just like zoo visits with theme park parts, but I've never done anything that big as 2 days on a theme park. So that's something for the future here on my YouTube channel. Here are the close-ups of the finished project with the 12 by 12 pages and the 6 by 12 ones, and I really hope that you have enjoyed this process and that it has sparked some sort of ideas with you. And if you like this version, you'll see more of the same in a couple of videos. Take care, this is Åsa, bye!